views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Open, the one and only show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm your host, Daren Jaime. Today, we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough, as well as across New York City. Coming up, we go front and center with the American Rescue Plan. We'll discuss how the new legislation is affecting the community. Also, we'll learn about a not-for-profit organization providing cutting-edge programs and services for people with disabilities. And then a little later on, we'll discuss how a corporation is providing support for struggling indigenous communities, as well as communities of color who own businesses. And then we'll discuss how another supermarket is navigating through the pandemic and providing food for Passover. And finally, we'll introduce you to a brother-sister team on their experience as young entrepreneurs. So stay tuned, because all this and much more is heading your way. Right now, we're officially open. And welcome to Open. This is March 24th, a Wednesday. I'm Daren Jaime, and we thank you for joining us here on Open, a live and interactive program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to you. We also want to welcome our viewers on Manhattan Neighborhood Network, as Open is being broadcast live simultaneously on the MNN channel. We encourage you to stay connected to us on all of our social media platforms at BronxNet TV, and then also on our website at bronxnet.org. Well, a lot has been going on across the city and the borough throughout the course of the past week. We'll take you to a couple of things with our Bronx updates. We start off with coronavirus news. New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo announcing small regional sports venues can also reopen beginning on April the 1st. Now, these are venues holding 1,500 people indoors or 2,500 people outdoors, and initial capacity will be limited to 10% indoors and 20% outdoors. Governor Cuomo also announced on April the 1st large outdoor performing arts venues, including stadiums holding more than 2,500 people, can actually reopen at 20% capacity. In other news, we shift our focus now. Bronx residents lined up for a food distribution during a day of community and culture outside of the Vishnu Mandir Hindu temple. Our BronxNet reporter Jericho Tran brings us the story.
Residents lined up, empty carts in hand, down the street from Pandit Vishnu Sukul Way for a food distribution during a day of community and culture outside of the Vishnu Mandir Hindu temple.
They give in good things, so we're thankful for them and we're glad for it. Some people is not working, some people don't have lots of kids, and then they have the COVID, people coming out and they get whatever they give.
The special day celebrated Women's History Month as well as the Hindu Festival of Colors, Holi.
And it's a perfect time to celebrate our community and leading females in our community.
Several community partners, including the NYPD Desi Society, the NYPD Hispanic Society, and even a member from the Kappa Epsilon Beta chapter, came out to help support the food distribution.
That's what I love about this, because these events, you never know what you're going to be doing, but everything is devoted to helping the people.
With a setup similar to a farmer's market, volunteers and community partners wore masks and gloves behind the tables as they distributed fresh produce, meals, and even pet food.
And as you can see, the lines are very long. We get over 300 individuals at every single one of these events. Our December event, we served over 900 families, and this alone shows how much they need the resources that are being given out. And it also shows our dedication as community partners, putting our hands in service to serve those in need.
And even with social distancing in place, Kemraj still hoped to have positive interactions with the residents.
We really need that human interaction. It's been way too long, over a year, that we've been social distancing each other. We've been wearing our mask. And while we continue to do this, the little that we can do is just say a few words of kindness as we serve our community.
Reporting for BronxNet, Jericho Tran.
And thank you, Jericho. That's all the time we have for our Bronx updates. We want to encourage you to stay connected to us right here on Open, where we bring you news and current events. We've got a full show coming up ahead. Stay with us. Open returns right after this.
When taking public transportation, don't touch your phone. Carry hand sanitizer and use it immediately upon leaving the bus or train. Avoid touching your face. If someone is coughing or sneezing, move away. Wash your hands with soap and water as soon as possible. Limit contact with poles. If possible, avoid rush hour. Don't eat or drink on public transportation. Keep your bag off the floor or other surfaces. Avoid directly touching turnstiles. Stay up to date with the latest from your local health department and CDC.
And welcome back to the show. A year into the COVID-19 economic crisis, as many as 20 million Americans still remain out of work, with the lowest wage workers hit the hardest by the pandemic. President Joe Biden has also signed the American Rescue Plan, enacting a nearly $1.9 trillion pandemic relief package with benefits including another round of stimulus payments, an extension of unemployment benefits, and generous tax breaks to low and moderate income people. The question is, how are things faring? And to get a better scope of this, we will now talk with the founding partner of the Boyd Law Group, Patrick J. Boyd. And Patrick, good to have you back.
Good morning. How are you?
Know that this $1.9 trillion package has rolled out. Americans are now starting to get their stimulus, but still a lot of questions remain unanswered. More particularly, how long this will last and what are some of the benefits to this?
Sure. Yeah, it is a ginormous package, $1.9 trillion, with a lot of the benefits that were part of the earlier stimulus plans included, but also some other things that we can talk about, like the tax credits, as you were mentioning. The first thing to keep in mind, I suppose, is just to go directly for the checks. Those stimulus checks are $1,400, and those are going to eligible families, which would be those individuals making $75,000 a year or less, or married couples making $150,000 a year or less. That's sort of the simple to understand benefit, the easiest one to go over. But at this point, there's not a lot of talk of other stimulus checks. So this may be the last one we're going to see for some time. Notably, this whole package was passed without the support of one Republican in Congress whatsoever. So I think we can see an erosion of the idea of or the spirit towards added stimulus, presumably because the recovery from the pandemic seems to be approaching us. We all hope.
So when we talk about the stimulus package, obviously we know that Americans, some are receiving, some are still in waiting and whether or not this is actually going to happen. We've got a lot of people right now currently unemployed. The question looms about unemployment benefits. Where do we see unemployment benefits playing out right now?
Sure. So the stimulus plan did include extension of benefits, and sort of those extensions. The easiest way to think about it is three types. First, there's the federal added benefit, which is used to be $600. That's now been trimmed back to $300, but that is continuing to be available to those people who are unemployed for qualifying reasons, and that is that is extended at this point until September 4th. So between now and September 4th, the benefit from the federal government of $300 will continue. That $300 is put on top of the state entitlement, and that state entitlement is obviously depends on the state you're in, but ultimately is going to be extended through September 4th as well. The two types of state entitlements are one for those sort of standardized workers you would think who had jobs and lost them because of the pandemic, but there's that secondary backstop for those people who are self-employed, maybe an Uber driver or something like that. Again, both of those benefits being extended, you're still eligible for unemployment, you're still going to collect unemployment, and those two benefits end September 4th or 6th. So the simple way to look at it, I guess, is that the benefit is going to be, for those people receiving unemployment, the benefit is going to decrease a little bit because the federal benefit is decreasing, but the base state benefit is going to stay the same, and that's going to continue through either September 4th or September 6th. The total amount of time that you can receive the benefits has also been extended. So it went from 24 to 53 weeks or 50 to 79 weeks, depending upon which of those two, self-employed unemployment or regular unemployment, you're receiving. Simple way to put it, and I know that's a mouthful, benefits are likely going to stay in place, or not likely will stay in place, but will end first week of September for everybody.
Yeah, we can talk about benefits for a few minutes, but only because we only have a few minutes in this segment. I want to move on to some other things too. When we talk about state aid, we talked about that a little bit, but I want to get to the topic of small businesses. Small businesses are the lifeblood of America, and we know that small businesses have been the recipients of PPP loans, and they have been going out for a second round. What can we anticipate going forward as Congress has put forward another stimulus package? The question about PPP and where do small businesses play out in all of this still remains unanswered.
Sure. So two things. The first round of PPP has now, as you mentioned, been extended. There's the second round. There's another $7 billion available for qualifying businesses to receive loans, either fully refundable or mostly refundable loans from the government for continuing their business. They have to dedicate a certain proportion of the money they receive to payroll for their employees and other operational things. In other words, showing that, thank you, government, for this help, and we're using this to keep our business alive and to keep people employed in our work, right? In addition, there's I think it's a $25 billion grant given to restaurants and bars, which were obviously, Daren, very hard hit by the pandemic, and can use that money to get back open and provide places for people to have a chance to meet again, have a drink, and just spend time enjoying some good local food and some good local company.
Yeah. Well, we know that as COVID-19 is not over, we still find many people are being infected and affected by it. And with that comes family leave and sick time. People are still dealing with the sick time. And we know that the quarantine that comes from exposure, where are we seeing family and sick leave at this moment?
Sure, and this is sort of consistent with the other talks we've had on the subject. There is still an allowance for people who are trying to recover from COVID, being diagnosed to see whether or not they have COVID, or getting their quarantine. There is leave available, but to be clear, the leave, which was once mandated, is now not required. So it falls in the discretion of the employer as to whether or not to give leave. I just want to be clear, if you have a disability or some meaningful condition that makes COVID extra dangerous, you still have the fundamental protections of the disability laws that have existed in this country before COVID stimulus and will exist afterwards. But for specific COVID legislation, the deal now is that the employer may but not must give leave. If they do give leave for receiving the vaccine, for being diagnosed with whether or not you have the virus, or for being treated, then you can ask your employer for that leave, and the employer can apply for and receive payroll tax credit as a result. But it is discretionary. They can choose to give it or not.
Yeah. What should we be paying attention to over the course of the next couple of months as things continue to change by the moment? The word of the day is stay flexible when it comes to what we hear.
Well, I mean, I think there's a couple of things to keep in mind. One of them, of course, is and it's important just to note with this legislation, there's a child tax credit in this bill, which is not sort of part of the directly COVID mandated ideas, if you will, but it's taking the individual tax credit from $2,000 per child to $3,600. It is a 1-year change to the tax code, but a meaningful tax change. And I think it may be an indication of what we're going to have as a new social safety net or new social benefits under the Biden administration that has a Congress that is largely behind him. So something to be on the lookout for in terms of what's going to happen in the future. One other thing, which is important, but was very hotly contested, there's $350 billion in this stimulus plan for aid to state and local governments. Now, in certain state and local areas, of course, there were great burdens to be borne by the government in trying to deal with extra hospitalization, extra care, and now, of course, extra vaccine rollout and support. But there were some states where that wasn't the case. And so the state aid was controversial. Some of the state aid was given to underfunded or unfunded pension plans, which may be a meaningful problem to address, but was not popular to be addressed in this particular stimulus plan. And I do think some of those legislative debates are going to be things we're seeing more often as new legislation and a whole new administration with that legislation comes into power.
And so as we look forward to the spring and the summer, obviously a lot of look at the legislation that's going to actually be going forward and taking place. Both sides are continuing to haggle and wrestle out of Washington. But what we can see so far is not so much bipartisanship when it comes to this. Do you think that this is going to cause a delay possibly in seeing some of these laws and these things enacted?
I think there are going to be a lot of controversial issues, and I would agree with you that there's not a lot of total support for some of the new legislative options that may be available for Congress and the administration to think about. I do think, Daren, though, it's a very unusual stimulus plan, and it's a very unusual time in the history of our country. So I think with respect to this particular plan, there were just some needs to get certain monies out no matter what. And there was a lot of agreement on the idea that unemployment should be extended, that perhaps there should be stimulus checks. It was not a question of what, but a question of how much that was holding up the dialogue. And there was some urgency here, which I think sort of resulted in this bill being passed and this legislation coming out the way it does. So it could be that bipartisanship is going to continue, but I sure hope that perhaps when there's less urgent matters, there'll be a chance for collaboration and some good understanding and some good legislation.
Patrick, thank you so much for joining us here on Open, sharing a little bit about, bring us up to speed about this new $1.9 trillion package that Americans are dealing with right now. Patrick Boyd, thanks again.
My pleasure.
All righty. Well, listen, now, if you want more information, please do us a favor, visit their website. And as you can visit Patrick's website, you can find out more information about the law group and things forthcoming. Taking a quick break. We got more shows. Stay with us. We'll come right back right after this. And welcome back to the show. Adap Community Network is the leading not-for-profit agency and a pioneer providing programs and services improving the quality of life for people with disabilities. Adap Community Network's breadth of over 100 comprehensive programs for thousands of individuals and families annually who are living with challenges such as autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and neuromuscular disorders, among many others. Joining us now to share more and provide further insight is the Senior Vice President of Program Services at Adap Community Network. We're joined by Dahlian Porter. And Dahlian, good to have you.
Hey, Darren, thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure.
Yes, and so for people who may not be so familiar, obviously you do a great job of providing services to those who have disabilities. Many people probably know you guys as United Cerebral Palsy before, but you're now Adap. And talk to us about how you've adapted and the work that you guys are still doing in serving those with disabilities.
Oh, thanks, Darren. I mean, we're a cutting-edge organization as Adap Community Network, where we provide services from pre-K children all the way up to adults. Services include education, we do summer camps, we do after-school programs, On the adult side, we do housing and provide folks with services in the community. So we do from housing from 24 hours a day to less than 24 hours a day. We also provide vouchers for people on rent subsidies. So if you live in a community, you need some special assistance, we could provide that. We also have a program called Home Access to Home, where if someone has an issue because of physical disabilities, where they may need a lift in their home or a ramp in their home, we can work with you on accommodating that. So we try to give the gamut of services. We really listen to the people we support, and it's really how we establish services. Also on the adult side, we have what we call day programs or day centers, where during the day you can come in and you can get services, and they're very personalized and they're catered to that person. So it ranges from community outings, supported employment, volunteer work, going out to libraries, but we really want to ensure people are part of their community.
And when we talk about serving the community, obviously this is a very vulnerable community as you deal with disabilities. Talk to us about COVID-19, because with COVID-19, I know a lot of people have had to pivot and change what they do. How has it affected those of your clients?
Oh man, COVID was tough for us. You know, it happened so fast, right? So one day we're going as normal, the next day services are just different. So it really impacted our folks. And it took us a couple of weeks to really adjust. One of the things we did, and because we felt we lost contact with folks, especially folks that attended our day centers that were living at home, we lost contact, right, for a couple of weeks. So we actually started a morning show called WACN. It was just an idea of one of our staffs, and we just ran with it. Well, this way we were able to connect with folks. I think the first week, maybe we had 20 people participate. And right now we have about 150 people that participate in this program. It was just a way of really connecting to folks and making sure we got eyes on people. People saw their friends, classmates, things of that nature. From that, we really developed a platform, a virtual platform of services, because it was so unsafe to really come back into programs. We couldn't do that. So we have a gamut of activities that we do virtually, whether it's meditation, arts and crafts. We do cooking classes. We have physical activities, exercise classes. So we really had to pivot overnight. We probably issued over 250 Chromebooks and iPads, so people were able to get in contact with us and stay connected through this virtual programming.
Awesome. And when you talk about making that pivot, obviously we're making a pivot right now. We're on the other side of the pandemic prayerfully. And now we're setting our sights on now the spring and ultimately the summer. I know recreation programs are also big for your clients as well. What do you offer by way of recreation programs, and what can people look forward to coming up this summer?
Okay, that's a great question. Thank you. We have a summer camp that we go to called Action Day Camp. We have a summer camp, which is awesome, so they can look forward to that. We have after-school programs that we're starting to gear up again, with schools getting back into action. We also have a Saturday disco program, and people get together, and it's more of a social atmosphere for folks, something different. So we try. So summer is actually an excellent time, and also as we talk about our day programs that have been closed because of the pandemic. In the summer is going to give us a lot of flexibility in the spring because we could do more outdoors. We have a campus on Stillwell Avenue in the Pelham section of the Bronx. So we'll do a lot of activities outdoor and really make a camp-like atmosphere for the people we support.
And you also do, as we have technology, and technology is key and crucial in this virtual age. And I know that you mentioned having getting Chromebooks out to those who are your clients and being able to service them. How hard of a task was that? And do you see this happening in the future?
Yeah, it was a very challenging task, because you could imagine everyone's trying to get devices, whether it's Chromebooks, iPads, laptops. Everyone's trying, but we give our IT department head agency, they did an excellent job securing these devices for the people supported. So it was just amazing what they did. And I just want to tap on something talking about technology. We also have a TechWorks department where we actually have a vehicle where we can go out to people's homes disabled or not, and work with you on any kind of device you may be looking for. We have a loaner program. So those are things we can absolutely do.
So as you make this impact within the community, we know that 18,000 people have been serviced by what you do. I saw this amazing statistic because, and I really was struck by it. It says 92% of every dollar that comes in for you guys actually goes directly to programs and clients. And not every agency can say that.
No, and that we're very, we take a lot of pride in that. We don't have a lot of overhead. So our staff are staff on the ground, hitting the boots running. We try to give back as much as we can to the people we support, because that's our priority, right? Our agency was founded on families, and we've always believed in that. Although we may be much larger now after 75 years, we really try to treat it as a small market, mom and pop shop, where we try to really get to know everyone we support, and we take it one person at a time. Our empowering people through initiative solutions, one person at a time, and that's how we truly believe it. I want to go back to something that you asked Daren earlier, and I didn't answer you. As far as technology, one of the things we've learned during the pandemic, we have a lot of flexibility now, right? So everything isn't just site-based on the community. So now people have options, right, that we support. So they can still get service virtually, even once we're up and running fully and programs are open. We want to give people the opportunity to have that flexibility.
Yeah, flexibility is key and very critical. How much have you learned about flexibility? I mean, we're about a year into this right now, and I think when we talk to organizations and organizational leadership, they say that every day it's a learning experience, and there's a need to always be flexible.
Yeah, no day's the same, right? So as an agency, we were always big on technology, and we felt we were leading the industry in technology. But what actually happened, we had to speed it up. We didn't have a choice, right? So what we thought we would take 2 years to do or 3 years to do, we did it in months, right? So we created platforms for the education program, the adult programs, virtual platforms to make sure, we can connect, and we were forced to do it. So the pandemic was a bad thing, absolutely, but some good things came out of it. And with this was flexibility that we hope we can maintain moving forward.
Yeah. And so for people who want to get connected to the work that you're doing and maybe even do some volunteer work, what can they do?
Oh, man. They go to our website, Adap Community Network, spelled out, Adap Community Network. And just go to our site and you can link on, you can get to volunteer sites. You can learn about our programs. You can learn what we're doing around COVID-19 as far as safety protocols, gives you information what programs are open, what programs may not be open. But it's just a great resource of information. We're also on all the social media platforms, so you can find us everywhere. We've made sure that we've made ourselves available to the community.
Yeah, well, great having you, Dahlian, and we certainly appreciate the work that you do with Adap. And of course, as you continue to go forward towards the summer, we'd love to have you come on back.
Okay, thank you, Dan. I welcome that. Thank you so much.
Right.
It was a pleasure.
Yes, sir. Well, now, for more information, we encourage you to do us a favor. Visit their website. The website is adaptcommunitynetwork.org, and then also follow them on social media at Adapt We Change. We got more shows. Stay with us. We're coming right back right after this. Welcome back. The local initiative Support Corporation NYC supports local business to advance equitable development of historically underinvested neighborhoods. LISC NYC recently awarded $1.1 million in grants to help over 100 struggling Black, Indigenous, and people of color-owned businesses to avoid permanent closure and the assistance needed to stay in operation. Here now to share a little bit more is the executive director of LISC NYC, Valerie White. And Valerie, glad to have you here on Open.
Thank you for having me.
And it's got to be an awesome feeling. I mean, having $1.1 million in grants, helping businesses during a time like this. We know that many people have had to close their doors, but the work that you've done has been able to actually keep doors open.
Yes, thank you again. And we're very pleased at LISC to have the opportunity to help these businesses that are located in these underserved communities. Many times the communities that we work, the commercial quarters, the businesses have been there for generations and are anchors of the communities that they're located in. They provide jobs, economic stability, and the like. So having the opportunity to provide this grant to them, but also the longer term programmatic aspects that come along with the grant are hugely important to us at LISC, and we're just very happy to be part of keeping those businesses sustainable.
What kind of requirements did you have for those who were seeking grant funding?
We were looking for businesses that were located in the neighborhoods that were the most negatively impacted by COVID. And that included infection rates, death, job loss, food insecurity, as well as insecurity for housing, but also had a number of businesses that were closing very early on. The businesses had to be owned by a minority or immigrant-owned businesses, less than $1 million in annual revenue, had less than 20 employees. So these are basically those very small businesses that may not have had the relationships, banking relationships, or wherewithal or experience to go and apply for the PPP loan or the payroll protection loan, which we know wasn't getting to a lot of businesses in our community in any event.
Yeah, and when we talk about small businesses, I mean, that is the lifeblood of America. And you don't have to have necessarily a multi-million-dollar business. Those small businesses are very vital to our communities.
They are very vital to our communities. And in fact, in the state of New York, I think that something like 96% of the employment base comes from small businesses. And here in New York City, they're vital. You know, of course, I said they supply jobs, but they are often the anchor, right, of those neighborhoods. They provide, you know, a sense of culture, a sense of stability. And many have been there for generations. The business might have been owned by the parents or grandparents, and now generations later, it's still there. And that sort of sense of foundation and security is hugely important in these communities, particularly during these times.
Yeah. Talk to me about communities of color, because part of this grant, well, all this grant was really going to help those communities of color, Indigenous people. What are some of the struggles that maybe the average person may not be so familiar with, that people that are from the Indigenous community and communities of color have to face when it comes to this?
Well, I think that we all are being reminded, right, that people of color, African Americans, you know, Black, Brown, Latinx, Asian, Indigenous, low-income, minority business owners, immigrants, we all have a number of things that we face just on a regular basis. So in the best of times, right, when times are good, these businesses struggle. They do not have the same equitable access to capital. They do not have the same equitable access to things like insurance, right? They may not necessarily have access to business development and training. And then they're operating, many times sometimes the employees might not be, you know, people that are paid through a W-9. They might be paid you know, in some other manner, informally, but that is how these communities survive. So in the best of times, these businesses are surviving, and surviving being that strength to the community. Once you had the pandemic and all of the negative parts of the pandemic was so much more overwhelmingly present in these communities, it just was a huge strike to the success and the continued continuation of businesses in these areas. So it was very important that we identified and targeted those areas, targeted those communities, targeted those businesses, and infused that capital to try to make a significant difference.
Yeah. Give me a little bit about some success stories. I know that you've got a couple. Emilio Bakery, Super Bakery, I know is one of them.
Yes, so Emilio Bakery was one of the 112 businesses, and they came to us through one of the nonprofits that we work with, the New York Women's Chamber, who works with immigrant women-owned businesses. That business is one of the ones that are generational and has been in the community for quite some time. So they were able to utilize the grant funding to pay their rent and keep the doors open. But it's interesting, now they are giving back to the community by providing some breakfast foods to mothers who are not working but taking their kids to school. So we are very excited to have partnered with them.
Yeah. So there may be somebody out there that's a business owner that says, listen, this sounds great. I'm glad that they were able to take part and receive grant funding. Somebody else may say, listen, when can we reapply? When does this happen again? Let the viewers know.
Well, we do have the continued support of the nonprofits, and that funding, we subgranted to the nonprofits to provide that funding on a regular basis. With the funding that actually gives the grants to the businesses, we have to raise for that. And, it's interesting because we raise through some of the larger philanthropic sources. So that might be the Netflix or the Wells Fargo or, some of the larger banks that you see. And the money, once we raise the money, it comes in and out. We don't keep it. We get it out to the community as quickly as possible. So right now I am in working with my team on the next phase of raising another $1 million so we can have the next cohort of 112 or whatever businesses. And we're hoping to be able to do that sometime in the summer. The one thing I will say is that when we do have a grantee that gets the grant, they are part of our family because this is our economic development platform for years to come. So we will always be there providing that technical assistance and support and stepping up to other sources of access to capital that have eluded minority businesses for decades. Now we are going to be able to assist to ensure that that is available to businesses on a regular basis so that they can be sustainable, not just now, but for years to come.
Tell me a little bit about this, that in addition to the work that you do in terms of raising funds and getting those taken care of to get these grantees taken care of, you also raise awareness, and you raise awareness through advocacy and really raising your voice about many of the critical issues. What are some of the things that you are paying particular focus to in this season?
Oh, there are a number of things. And again, just this past year has just reminded us how much inequity plagues all of us in this country and how difficult it is to have an equitable society. So we talk about the digital divide. Indeed, I have pinned a couple of op-eds to talk about that. And I think that that's primarily been on the forefront because people think about it in terms of education, which is hugely important because the children that are located in these very neighborhoods where the businesses are do not have the same access to broadband, many times do not have access to a computer or enough of a computer to learn remotely. But if you think about it, just in terms of digital access, we were moving to a virtual society anyway, but that was accelerated because of the pandemic. Now where it's not going to start to roll back, it's going to continue to go forward. So if we have a whole segment of society that either doesn't have access, doesn't have the training or experience utilizing the virtual world, or whose access is less reliable than in other parts of the city, then you have shelled off an entire part of the community that won't be able to get services, do medical appointments, work virtually. And of course, education is a key part. So that's one of the areas that we speak very, very bluntly and strategically and deliberately on a regular basis.
Valerie White, we got to leave it there, but thank you so much for joining us and the great work that's going on at LISC. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All righty. Well, listen, if you want more information, please go to their website at LISC.org. Again, LISC.org. We'll be back. We got more show coming up. We'll be right back in a few. And welcome back to the show. Seasons Kosher Supermarkets will soon serve as the hub for the New York City metropolitan area's kosher for Passover needs. Now, Seasons is the kosher supermarket, which has something for every family. The supermarket offers delivery services from their 6 locations dedicated to driving value through providing an elevated experience with competitively priced goods as well as services. Here now to share more is the Vice President of Operations at Caesar Kosher Supermarket, Mayor Gold. And Mayor, good to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And it's got to be a good time of the year for you in terms of getting ready for the season of Passover. Last year, of course, a lot of us adversely affected by the pandemic, but this year, a little less on the restriction. We'll be definitely celebrating Passover. Talk to us about your anticipation.
Okay, so like you mentioned, the pandemic was last year. It was a little bit crazy going on over here. It was just the onset when it hit the New York area, and sort of like no one really knew what was going on. It took a while. We figured it out. People that intended to go away for the holidays ended up staying home. People that planned on staying home ended up going away. To other people, maybe they couldn't get food or couldn't. It was just crazy. This year, thankfully things are more stable. Although we're still in the pandemic, but things are definitely more stable than last year. The flow of product is better than it was last year, and we're geared up. We have all our stores are fully loaded with product, Passover product, to sell fresh product, groceries, meats, prepared foods, and we're ready to service our clientele.
Yeah. Do you sense a little bit more excitement on the part of the public now that it seems as though like we're on the other side?
Definitely. In the height of the pandemic, our online sales just skyrocketed, and we were just filling orders all day long, all day and all night. We have essential workers here, and everyone, great teams of people in all our stores came in, to pull their weight. And certainly people are coming back into the stores. Besides ordering online, they're coming in and definitely ordering more. There's still a lot of question marks. Certain communities are still, on semi-lockdown or not fully open yet. But as it opens up more, people come out more.
Yeah. And so for us who may not be so familiar with your store, people don't know you've got a lot of great line of Jewish and also gluten-free products. Talk to us about what's available for your customers.
Okay, so we're a full-service supermarket, and our stores range in size from 15 to 55,000 square feet, and full service meaning produce, organic produce, fresh meats and poultry, seafood, bakery, prepared foods, groceries. And interestingly enough, Passover, because of the dietary restrictions of the Passover rules, it's a gluten-free person's holiday that they love, and some people stock up Passover time for the whole year on certain products that are available for Passover and not necessarily available the rest of the year. On Passover, many wheat products we don't eat. So people that have wheat allergies will stock up on, matzah crackers and cereals and many ingredients that they would cook with the whole year. that they have imitation products for Passover, like soy sauce and other type of sauces that they may not be able to get the rest of the year. They will stock up for Passover. So it just, we're very excited to offer this to everybody. Cakes, desserts, everything.
Speaking of stocking up, obviously during the COVID-19 pandemic, we're almost a year in. And this time last year, we know that many of us were forced to actually stay behind closed doors, not come out. How did that actually affect the business of the supermarket, being that in some cases people did come out and in a lot of cases others elected to stay home?
Right. So that's an interesting point. It was sort of like every day a different thing was going on, depending on what the restrictions were that day or which areas we service. We have stores in New York and New Jersey. So depending on the stores, we had to limit the amount of people coming into the store at any given time. We had some of our own employees, unfortunately, got sick and they were out like the rest of the population. And it was just juggling. And then you had the chain of products coming in, supply chain was cut down, and it was hard to get certain products. And there was a run on toilet paper, and then you had toilet paper for a week, and then you were out of stock for a week. And you sort of just made do. And thankfully, like I said, we have a very good team in all our stores who really were dedicated, to servicing our customers as best we possibly can. And we pulled through. And thankfully, we're on the other side of it now.
Yeah. And deliveries are still huge, I take it, because as we're still in a place where people are being vaccinated and others are still electing to stay home because New York is so densely populated. New Jersey is so densely populated. A lot of people are relying on deliveries. How are things working with you as far as deliveries are concerned?
So deliveries are still very, very strong. We increased our fleet by like 25% in the last few months, getting additional vans, additional labor, additional shoppers, pickers, shop the orders, get them out there. We've upped our website, seasonskosher.com, to be able to handle more and more capacity as necessary. And like you mentioned, certain areas they're coming out, and certain areas, people would prefer to stay home, and we're here to service everybody. We have a diverse, and we have our own vans that go out, every day to all the neighbors that we serve, and because we have 6 locations, we serve, a good chunk of the tri-state area is served by our stores.
Yeah. Everybody has been affected by this in one way or the other. From your perspective, can you share with our viewers a little bit from a supermarket and running a supermarket? What has been some of the biggest challenges you've had to face in these times?
So part of the biggest challenge we've had is that we're also human, and supermarket operators are also human, also have families, need to stay home to take care of their children or their spouse or an elderly relative. And at the same time that we don't have the luxury of working from home. We have to go into work every single day. So that was definitely a big challenge, going back, 12 months ago during the height of the pandemic. That was definitely a big challenge when, employees are calling out sick and you still need to run the store. And people want to shop, but you need to limit the hours or limit the amount of people in there. So you're trying to balance between servicing our customer business and keeping our customers healthy and our employees healthy. It's a very, very difficult balance. But like I said, we pulled through, and here we are today, and we'd like to go forward. So even today, we have to have social distancing in all the stores, and lines and masks and gloves and everything else that we do, cleaning down the stores on a regular basis, sanitizing it, shopping carts. There's things have definitely changed, and that change has stayed on. Even though we may be open for business, behind the scenes, definitely things are going on that we didn't do necessarily 2 years ago.
Yeah, here we are in the early part of spring. People are setting their sights on spring, summer. Are you optimistic?
Yeah, we're very optimistic. People are very excited to get out there. We know that, you could tell the weather from running a supermarket, because if it's a beautiful day outside, people are not shopping. They're either shopping online or they're, not shopping at all. They're taking the kids to the park. You have a gorgeous Sunday weather, like last Sunday was beautiful weather. Everyone stays out, everyone goes outside, and they just shop on Monday. So certainly the weather determines the shopping pattern. But like Passover is coming up now, the end of this week, people have no choice but to shop. So they may push it off a day or two because the weather's nice, but then they have no choice but to come in and shop or place their orders online. So yes, everyone has to eat.
Yeah, and 'tis the season for Passover. Mayor Gold, thank you so much for being with us here on Open. Glad to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Well, listen, if you want more information, don't forget to visit the website at seasonskosher.com. We do have more show coming up. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this.
most at risk for coronavirus? People over 65, people with underlying medical conditions like heart disease, chronic lung disease, asthma, diabetes, people undergoing cancer treatment, and people with weakened immune systems. What should you do if you or a loved one is at higher risk? Avoid close contact with people, avoid crowds, stay home if you can, wash your hands frequently, learn more ways to protect yourself and others at coronavirus.gov.
And welcome back to the show. A brother and sister team began their entrepreneurship at the age of 7 years old, and now 11, they're taking their business skills to another level. Last year, they launched their new business workbook showing kids around the world they can do whatever they want despite any challenges they may face. They recently launched a show right here on BronxNet. Here to tell us more are authors and business entrepreneurs, Princeton and Brazil, Dowe, and thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having us. We actually turned 12 in October.
Oh, okay. Congratulations. 12 years old and 12, and that's a big number, doing some big things. And so talk to us about why you wanted to be an entrepreneur at such an early age.
Well, it always started like me and Princeton had the desire, and we always liked the business. And I was just sitting on the couch, and then I noticed that years ago that there was a problem with like the community and the health. So me and Princeton decided to come up with a water brand, and we were actually 7 turning 8. And then ever since we've been doing new things. We got our own show on Bronx, which I'm very happy. We launched our own workbook and flashcards, and then we help the community. We have our own documentary, Faces of Children, well, Faces of Unidentifiable Disabilities, and it's basically about like people with unidentifiable disabilities, since we were actually diagnosed with 2 disabilities. And then we just been doing amazing things lately, and ever since things been going great.
Yeah. Let me ask your brother about this. So you got a water business, I see?
So when we were like 7 turning 8, we thought of we saw a problem. People were unhealthy. They weren't getting enough healthiness in their system. So we wanted to provide like a tool so they can be healthy, so they can help them. So we wanted to provide a water for kids so they can be healthy. But now we don't sell that anymore because, you know, coronavirus and the quarantine and stuff. So now we just promote our water on our platforms and just give them water facts so they can stay healthy and hydrated.
Right. And so for people who don't know, you mentioned a few minutes ago about having disabilities, but even in spite of being diagnosed, you guys have still been able to turn it around, be entrepreneurs, and be successful and inspire other young people. Talk to me about that.
Just because you have a disability, that doesn't mean you can't do anything. There's people who like have a disability, but they're still humans. Like, we're humans. Just because you have a disability, that doesn't mean you can't do things that people can do that may not have a disability.
So for people who don't know, as you mentioned before, you've got a show on BronxNet Television. Glad to have you on the station with us as new additions. Tell us about the show.
Well, the show is called the Daltons and Friends Show, where we bring like information, we have our own segments in the show, like what's new, like word game, like that's where we motivate people, like what's new. We give them information that's new, like it's like a news channel technically for that segment. So we have segments within the show that brings educational facts.
And so in addition to this educational show, you guys also have a workbook. And for people who don't know about the workbook, let us know.
We have our workbook and flashcards right here. It's for
I love it. You guys got it right ready. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's for 3rd grade and up, but even those adults can do it, because I'm pretty sure some adults, want to know the answers and stuff. So it could be for anybody, as long as you can like fill out the answers. And the answer key is actually in the back, but we don't want you guys to cheat or anything.
There's 6 subjects. There's science, social studies, language, arts, technology, music, and art.
And there's little fun activities and stuff like tic-tac-toe. So they're learning while having fun. And I'm pretty sure like who doesn't want to learn while having fun?
Yeah, we got to get you guys on Shark Tank. You guys have really got it going on here. You know, you got the workbook, you got the TV show, you got entrepreneurship out there, and so for young people out there who really may not know how to get started being an entrepreneur, you guys got started real early. What are some of the tips you might be able to share with somebody who says, "Listen, I want to be like them"?
You just have to start. You can't wait, because there's some people out there that maybe is gonna have the same idea, and if you just wait longer and longer, your idea may be somebody else's idea, and then sometimes it won't work out because then you're like taking somebody's idea, but you already said that you had it. And just get started. Think positive and don't quit. Like, never quit. Even if it's not going good, you always have to switch things around when you start a business. So never quit and always stay positive.
You have to think about your business first and think about a plan to outgrow your business so everyone can know about it.
I'm loving you guys too. I mean, I'm really encouraged by the fact that you guys are just doing it. And so many people talk about doing it and wait to do it, but you guys are actually doing it. And so I'm proud of you, and I want you guys to continue doing what you're doing. Yeah. So tell people where they can get more information about you and what's coming up next.
You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Dowe Twins, which is DOWE Twins, and then where you could get this workbook and flashcards, you can go on our website, www.dowtwins.com. If you ever want to interview us again, you always DM us on our Instagram platform, because we would love to talk to you guys. It's amazing doing interviews, and we just like talking about our business.
Well, I'm gonna end it with this question. I know you guys are brothers and sisters. I know you guys.
Make sure to watch our show.
Huh?
Make sure to watch our show. It's always come on first Monday of each month.
First Monday each
4
month.
p.m.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I gotta go. But before I go, I gotta ask you this question. I know you're brothers and sisters. I know you're twins. I know you're entrepreneurs and business partners.
Yes.
Do you guys ever fight amongst each other?
Yes, we're siblings.
Yeah.
All siblings fight. We fight all the time. We're we fight. Well, we don't fight over anything, but we always fight. We're siblings, but we still love each other.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you guys both for being on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Oh, thank you so much for being a part of our show. Certainly you're an inspiration to all of us. Even though you're young entrepreneurs, your spirit and the work that you're doing is really making a difference for a lot of people and encouraging and inspiring others. Thank you for being with us here on the show. Well, unfortunately, we are out of show today, and we want to thank all of our guests for joining us, but most of all, you, the viewer, for tuning in. And if you missed any part of today's show, don't forget to catch the recablecast here on BronxNet's Channel 67. If you have Verizon Fios, that'd be Channel 2133, or anytime on the web at BronxNet.org. Now, if you want a brand new episode, don't forget to tune in on Friday. My girl, Verena Valentine, she'll have arts, entertainment, and a little bit more on COVID-19. I'm Daren Jaime saying take care, God bless, and most of all, keep this channel wide open.